So this is going to be the short version of lesson 3. So most of us did lesson 3 through Zoom. If you missed that, then this is going to help you with the new formulas, and you could also be rewatching this as a way to refresh yourself on what we did during our Zoom meeting. In addition to this video, I'm also posting the answer key like I usually did throughout the year. So it's going to have all of the answers to all of the questions, because in this video I'm only going to do a couple examples. So the first type of question we have is about the midpoint. So I'm going to just do part A from example 1, and this is on page 12. So to find the midpoint, we're going to have the values from the two endpoints and plug it into these two formulas. So this first formula helps us figure out the x value of the midpoint, and this formula helps us figure out the y value of the midpoint. So we're just going to take the numbers from here and plug it into these 4 spots here. So we're going to have to name each of these numbers. So we've got x1, y1, and x2, y2. So 8 is x1, 10 is y1, and so on. Okay? You could have these swapped completely if you want, but the 1s have to go together and the 2s have to go together. I'm in the habit of going from left to right, from going from 1 to 2, so that is the way I'm going to always do it, and that's how my answers are always going to be in the answer key. But if you do it the other way around and you still get the same answer, then you're fine. So we're going to plug in. So let's do the x values first. The x value for the midpoint is half of the two x values added together. So x2 is negative 12, and then x1 is 8. If we continue this and do the parentheses first, we've got negative 12 plus 8, which is going to be negative 4. And then half of negative 4 is negative 2. So that means our point, our answer is going to be a point here. The x value for the point is going to be negative 2. And we're going to do the same thing for the y value, except now we're going to be using 10 and 16. So after you plug in, it just becomes an algebra problem. Plug in the numbers, you get 13 as your final answer. So that means 13 is the y value for the midpoint. So our midpoint is negative 2, 13. And if you wanted to try that out on a graph, you'd see that it's going to fall right in between these 2 points. So all of the midpoint questions are like that. And the other one is when you don't have the midpoint. You've got some other proportion. So midpoint is always going to be 1 to 1, because our two pieces that we have over here, if this is the midpoint, this is one piece, that's one piece. We've got equal pieces on both sides. But sometimes they don't ask us for that. In example 3 here, it says that our proportion is 3 to 5. So that means if you look at this, I'll switch up the colors so it's easier to see what I'm talking about. It says from the distance of AP is this right here. That's 1, 2, 3 equal pieces. And all of these pieces throughout the whole thing will be equal. And PB is going to have 5 of those equal pieces. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 equal pieces here. So when it says 3 to 5, it's 3 to 5 equal pieces like that. And that's going to help us set up the ratio part of our equations. Okay, so the ratio is always going to be, if you do it the way that I did it during Zoom, we're going to have this be A and this be B, and it's going to be, the ratio is going to be equal to A over A plus B. So what that means is that you've got 3 over here. P is 3 chunks away from A, and we're going to use A as our more important point for this, as our reference point. We're going 3 away from A out of a total of 8 pieces altogether. There's 8 pieces because we've got 3 and 5. So 3 and 5, that's A plus B to give us that bottom number. Okay, so to go from A to P is 3 out of a total A to B 8 chunks for the whole line. So 3 over 8 is going to be our number for the ratio. So this is 3 over 8. This is 3 over 8 also. And then since we're referring to A, we're saying, oh, we're 3 away from A. We're not saying that we're 5 away from B in our fraction. We're not including the 5 in the top. Since we're talking about A, we're going to make A x1, y1. Okay, and my trick for that is that since we're always going to use the number on the left as our top number here, we're always going to make the letter on the left x1, y1, which makes the other side always x2, y2. So our points A as -8, -4, and B 16, 4 are going to be x1, y1, and x2, y2. And you could take all that and plug it into those equations up there. So if we look at the x's first, then we've got x1 as -8 plus the ratio that we came up with before, and that's multiplied times x2, which is 16, minus x1, so minus a -8. And when you have something like this where you've got 2 negatives, subtracting a negative number is the same thing as adding, so we're going to turn that into plus, and that's going to be 24, and then bring all the other stuff down. And then we're going to do this part next, which you can take this whole thing and put in your calculator if you want to, but since I'm doing it step by step, if you do 3/8 of 24, that's going to be 9, which means that the x value is going to be 1, because -8 plus 9 is 1. And it says this is the x value. So the x value of point P is 1. So our answer, point P, is going to have, for the x and y value, the x value of 1, but we don't know y yet. So we have to do our other formula still. This one over here. But now we're going to use the y values. So -4 and +4. So -4 was y1, so -4 plus the ratio is going to be multiplied times y2, which is 4, minus our y1, which is -4, again. And then same thing as before, if you've got 2 negatives like that, it becomes plus. So we've got -4 plus 3 over 8 times 8. Those 8's cancel out. Whoops, I'm saying 8 so much. 4 plus 3, because these 8's cancel out. And the y value for P is going to be equal to -1. So that means the y value for P is -1 right there. And this is our answer. And we do the same process for all of these other ones. Okay, you could do it algebraically like we just did, and there's also a way to do it on the graph here. But doing it with algebra is always going to work. These formulas will work every single time. So double check your work after you try these other problems. Double check them with the answer key that I post, and you're going to turn in the homework in the lesson 3 assignment that I post on Google Classroom. Okay, if you have any questions about any of this, especially if you weren't in the Zoom meeting or if you didn't understand it during Zoom and thought of a new question now, make sure you ask me. you can ask me over Google Classroom or Remind or email.